Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. Hope everybody's doing great today. So happy Memorial Day to everybody. Hopefully you're barbecuing and enjoying, and a big thank you to everybody who has made the biggest sacrifice ensuring our freedom. So anyway, I thought since it's Memorial Day, I know I'm a little bit late technically, but I thought let's do some patriotic blanks. So we're going to do red, white, and blues. And I'm going to try to do something a little bit different. I've done these, in the past. I have a red, white, and blue blank. We've done some different versions of it around 4th of July or Memorial Day. But I thought I have kind of an idea in my head. We're going to try it out, and we'll see what happens. It should be kind of fun. So let's see. Last week, what did we do last week? Last week we did watermelon pen, and that was fun. So if you didn't see that, this thing on right? Okay. If you didn't see that, here's a shot of the watermelon pen, watermelon Zen pen. Love these things. It's got the magnetic cap. It's postable. It's a good kit, but we're interested in the colors. And I really like that watermelon. I decided we're going to go with watermelon as the 5th and final launch color for the pigments. And the pigments are doing well. I've got the labels ordered. Well, I've got one color of the labels ordered. This stuff is kind of expensive. So I want to make sure that the labels actually are good. So I decided to get one color. So we'll get that. And if that's good, then the labels will be all good. And we got the bottling going right now. We got the bottles, the caps, everything's rocking. So I'm hoping, I don't know, in a couple weeks, we should have the launch. Again, I could launch it at any time. I want to do a little bit of marketing, hype it up. I haven't really talked about the pigment stuff on Instagram or anything. We pretty much have just talked about it here. So I'm going to ramp up and kind of let people know that this is coming over the next couple weeks. But like I said, in the meantime, I'm basically waiting on labels, which is not very fun. I wish I had the labels already, but I wasn't sure which colors we were going with, so you can't buy labels if you don't know what the color name is, really, So anyway, let's see who's here. We got Bruce. Mike's gonna be back, or watch he's got a guild meeting today. I see. We got Kim's here. How's it going? Mark L. And Bruce. Let's see. I already said Bruce. David Bingham's here, and Brian over at TBC. Mike Johnson's here. Nice. Jim Spalding. What's going on? Let's see here. It moved on me. Let's see. Make sure everything's working right here. Who else? Let's see. Scrolling. Vinny's here, and Harold. Let's see here. Greetings programs. And Wurzel. Who else? I think that's it. Can we pre-order the pigments? Yeah, that's actually one other thing that I need to do. I need to get them on the website. I haven't created like the listings and all that stuff, but we'll probably do like a pre-order type deal. There's going to be a discount on the launch. Just to let anybody know, Turner's Warehouse is going to have them too right off the bat. So if you're in Arizona and you just want to go and pick them up there, they're going to have a full, all of them, everything that's going on. So, which is pretty nice. It was nice of Chad. Chad's going to kind of help out a little bit. He's going to kind of pay a little bit, not that far in advance, but a little bit in advance to kind of offset. I've had to buy a lot of stuff to figure out all this pigment stuff, between bottles and caps. And I mean, this stuff is not cheap. And then like other things to do, get the bottling done and all that kind of stuff. It's been interesting. It's been fun. I like learning new things. I think I don't know, like learning this bottling, this whole, what all is involved with like bottling a liquid thing to sell, has been kind of an interesting thing to learn about. I mean, worst case scenario, this all blows up in my face. It was a big waste of time and all that stuff. The cool thing is, I mean, like I'm not doing anything like this, but like it occurred to me, if I ever wanted to come out with honey, or I've seen people bottling honey, trying to figure out how the bottling thing works. Honey or soap, or like if I wanted to do some other product, I get the bottling thing. I know where to get the stuff. I know what's going on with it. So it's kind of an interesting thing to learn. We'll see how useful it is down the road. But yeah, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I think it was actually you, David, that mentioned maybe getting like a full set. I'm not sure if I'm going to set up like a one of every color, because there's only 5 right now. I might do that. I don't know. Like I said, I've just been trying to get the product like ready to be sold. So I haven't really thought about some of the other marketing and how, you know, all that kind of stuff yet. But like I said, I've got a couple of weeks, because I ordered the first label, first color. And so like, I don't know, that's probably going to take a week to get it, you know, for them to print it and do all that stuff. So, and I really wanted to just order them all, but there's no way to get a proof, like a physical copy proof, to make sure that everything's good. Because I mean, the labels alone are going to cost like upwards of like almost $1,000, like just to buy labels. So I was like, I don't think I want to just blow $1,000 if this doesn't actually work out. So I went for one color. Still, if it didn't work out, it's still going to be a gut punch, but that's okay. So anyway, I'm doing pretty good over here. Everything's going good. Let's see. So couple quick things. One thing, I want to actually shout out FedEx, the company. I've been having nothing but issues with our FedEx delivery guy. He just it is pretty blatantly apparent that he just throws the stuff on our driveway. And this last time I think I mentioned a couple times ago when we did the watermelon blanks, I was like, oh my God, it's like set up, it's already at the temperature. And I'm like, I really thought I had 5 more minutes or something. I lost track of time, I thought. And then I went and it's been really fast, and it's not that hot in my shop at all. And so I went and looked at the 10-gallon jugs that they sent me, and they sent me the wrong resin. It was the regular clear instead of slow. So I finally got my slow in, and this guy, he literally, one of the boxes was just leaning, like obviously he dropped it because it was all smashed, and it's just leaning against my house. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm complaining. And I actually complained, and they actually did something. Now I don't feel safe in my home. I think I'm actually going to get a ring, because if this guy was already mad, I had never complained, and he's so mad that, you know, I had the audacity to order 50-pound jugs of something, and he's just mad throwing it at my house. If he was already mad and now he's getting a complaint and he knows who it was, I think I'm going to get a ring, because I have a feeling he's probably going to take a baseball bat to stuff while he's rolling it up. But at least the company is like, this is unsatisfactory, so we'll fix it. So big shout out to FedEx for getting on top of this guy. Another thing, one thing I wanted to mention, Alumilite's having like a 25% off sale this weekend. So I'm just going to drop a link. I probably maybe have I don't know. I think I have like a code or something. I don't even know if they work. I don't care. So I'm just going to put a link to Alumilite. So if you order through them, 25% off this weekend. I didn't read the fine details and stuff, but I think it might be site-wide. So they usually do this, I think on 4th of July, maybe, like, I don't know, random holidays. They have, 25% off is a pretty good, you're not going to get that anywhere else probably. So stock up now while you can. Let's see here. Oh, is my stream doing okay? Okay. Got that out of the way. One announcement, or one side thing before we get going on these blanks. So again, what we're doing today is red, white, and blue. And I'll give you kind of a little bit of a teaser before we actually get to the casting. The idea that I have for these ones this time is, obviously we can just mix blue, red, and white together and get a patriotic blank. And I have some of those, that color combination of like the team color blanks on my website. And I've done different things in the past with trying to do different kind of iterations of this. So I think what we'll do this time though, and I don't think I've done this before, what I'm thinking is, so, the American flag, you got a lot of blue and then you got the red and white, right? So it's kind of two separate type of things, red and white and blue. So I was thinking what we can do, and I'm going to go with the beast. They should really put the beast on this thing. We're going to go with the 12 blank, and I'm so excited that I have Alumilite Clear Slow to work with. It's so good to have you back, friend. We'll have plenty of time to get everything done. But what I was thinking is we'll pour like almost like half in the mold. And the tough thing is with these blue ones, it's a little bit more difficult. That is one of the advantage to my Gatling molds. Although eventually they become opaque, kind of. And it took years for this to happen, but you can put a light like behind, like backlight your mold, and it's not see-through, it's not transparent by any means, but if you backlight it, you could actually kind of see the liquid going in. Now the middle one's a little bit more difficult, you can't really see that one, but all these ones on the outsides, you can actually see like I said, you got to get a pretty strong light behind it, but you can see it filling up. So you could like put a mark, if you wanted to, on this mold and fill it halfway. We're not going to worry about that. It's not like super important to get this like 50% of the blank is blue. But what I want to do is, kind of take my time and try and see down in there how far up, and try to shoot for like about 50% or so, a third to 50% being blue. Where this can become a problem is if you mix up 50% blue, okay, and you don't use it all basically, then you gotta, if you don't have enough of the red and white to fill the mold, you could run into problems and end up having to put blue on top again or something, or short the blanks, which you don't want. So it might be a good idea to actually make more of the red and white, just in case the blue, you don't really get it. However, if you nail the amount of blue that you need, then, in theory, if you empty the cup of blue, then you should be fine, right? So just something to think about. Just in case, maybe to make sure that you don't have to add blue to the top of anything, you might want to add make a little bit extra red and white kind of thing. So that's what we're going to do. But the other little kicker, I thought, so the blue part has the stars in it, right? So we're going to use we're going to actually use the new navy blue. That's going to be so for anybody that doesn't know, for the 5 colors that are going to be coming on the initial launch for the pigments is going to be coral, robin egg blue, Tiffany blue, if you will, but we won't say that because Tiffany's doesn't like that. Army green, navy blue, and watermelon. Okay, so those are the 5 pigments, liquid pigments that we're going to be launching pretty soon, a couple weeks. And I thought, we'll use the navy blue because it's a nice dark blue for the flag. But what I was going to try to do is add a little bit of glitter and try to make it starry, the blue part. So I was thinking the chunkiest glitter that I have is just the starlight. So let's just see if we can't get a little bit of starriness going on in the blue. Now, we're using opaque-ish, pretty much opaque liquid pigments. I'm not sure how well this effect is going to work out in the end. I'm definitely not going to put a ton of pigment in for the blue. It's not gonna be transparent or anything like that. I don't want to put a really tiny amount, but I don't want to put a significant amount of pigment, because the more pigment you have in there, the more opaque it's going to be, the less little starlights you're going to see. So we're just going to kind of adjust those numbers a little bit and then try and get, a little bit of starlight coming through on the blue and then red and white on the top. So it should be kind of fun. Like I said, I don't know that I've done this before. Now, another thing that we could do, actually, I just thought of this in my brain. I think we should probably do a split cup for the red and white, and we should get red and white separated. That'll be pretty cool. It'll be just like the stripes. Now, we're not going to get it to the point where, what ends up happening is, I can pour blue, up to a certain point in the mold, and I can, pour the red and white on top of that. We're not going to get some line of demarcation. It's not going to be like a block of blue and then red and white on the top. There's going to be a little bit of mixture of the red and white going in with the blue. If you really needed to have that kind of separation, what I would probably recommend doing is just make blue blanks and then make red and white blanks and then segment them together, basically glue them together. That would give you that blue chunk and then red and white. We're not going to worry about that. I'm going to try and pour carefully, but in my experience, no matter how carefully you pour, gravity is going to kind of pull things down, and certain things may be heavier than others, and it just kind of mixes up a little bit. But hopefully what we'll get is a decent chunk of blue. Like it's going to be, you know, not red, white, and blue at the bottom kind of thing. So it should be kind of fun. Now the other thing, before we even get to the pouring, I don't know why I didn't think about that split cup, because I've been able to, if you don't move it around, if you just pour it with this split cup kind of thing, I mean, it goes in the tube and it stays pretty close to just red and white separated, like equally half and half in that tube. So do I have I don't think I have any. I poured some with 3 colors. Actually, that's what we did, I think, last year. We did a split cup with red, white, and blue. And I mean, it was like red, white, and blue. And I honestly couldn't believe that it pretty well stayed in the tube. Like it stayed straight up and down, kind of pretty demarcated. Like, that's a good word, demarcated. Wouldn't the red and white go pink? No, it's not gonna. That's a good question. We're gonna wait till, if you poured it right away, immediately, yeah, it might. But again, it doesn't, if you do it this way, it's not going to even bleed together, because, you know, you can just pour multiple, like I normally do on the stream. You can pour colors together and they don't bleed together really. Maybe a little bit, but you know, as long as you wait till the right temperature, the resin thickens up and it can't really just bleed together, you know, and mix. That's why we wait till, you know, the resin thickens up, waiting till the end of the working time when that resin's thickened up a little bit. Then you can pour it and you can get swirling without a bunch of color bleed. Like sometimes you're going to get a little bit of bleed. You know, there may be like areas where it's a little bit lighter, where they're meeting, a little bit lighter red, but it's not going to be like just pink or anything like that. And the red and the white are going to be separated. You know, we're not pouring them together in a cup. They're going to be separated. When you pour it, they come pouring out as 2 different, I mean, they kind of mix together, but there's 2 different streams. It's really cool. This split cup thing is kind of an interesting, I'm glad we played with that. I think what I'm going to have to do is go find the link to this file. If you have a 3D printer, I just 3D print these guys, and I have a file. And the cool thing is you can make whatever size cup you want. You can just adjust in the 3D printing settings. Might actually need to use this one, but you know, I got multiple sizes of these cups that you just adjust up or down, and there's like a 3. I think you can even choose maybe, or there's different files. Whoever made this, I didn't make the file, so it's going to go to whoever made them. But you can get like 3, 4, 5 different things. It's kind of neat. I'm just going to see, I don't know, I think this one will be enough. There's a bunch of dust or something. I'm going to blow this out real quick. We haven't done a split cup for a while. This thing's just been kind of sitting around. All right, now before we do the pour though, that is a really good question about color bleed. We are going to go right there. Okay. So I'm going to go to the overhead. So I got a pen, and this is actually a Higgins pen. Jim Higgins made this. And I got this when I went to the San Francisco pen show. So he makes really awesome pens. But I, unfortunately, haven't used this in quite a while, and it got, the ink dried up in here. So I thought I need to fix this thing, or, you know, clean it out. But we can do this on the stream. I don't know if it's going to be super interesting, but I have a feeling that there's probably some people that really don't know that much about these fountain pens. And if you've got one where you've done what I did, let it dry in the thing. Here's how you clean a pen, basically. And we'll have to see. I was using the ink. So depending on what ink you were using, some of them, they call them well-behaved. Some of them are not well-behaved whatsoever. And what that means is, like, they're easy to clean. They generally write well. You know, they're just overall easy to use. Now, what was in here was this Yamabudo. It's a Iroshizuku. I can't even say that. Iroshizuku. This line, this is by Pilot. The Iroshizuku colors, generally are fairly well behaved. I would say that reds, oranges in general are drier and maybe a little less well behaved. This purple's been pretty good. It's like a maroon purple kind of thing. Blues, blacks, and those types of things typically are going to be the most well behaved in general. But then when you get into the ones that have a lot of the shimmer and whatever shading where there's like stuff, so like shimmer, basically it's like glitter is in here. So you can imagine if you're trying to force glitter through a thing, it just gunks up your nibs. So shimmery ones and things that have a lot of effects in them generally are not very well behaved, and they're a pain to clean. They may require heavy duty cleaning. So I played around with this. It was neat. I just don't have the patience to deal with not well behaved inks, because as you can see, I let them dry in my pens sometimes. So what we're going to do, I don't really love getting ink all over myself. Plus we have an event tomorrow. I don't want to have to explain myself. So I'm just going to get a little bit of water here. So the first step, if you've done this, or even if you just need to clean out or you're switching to a different color ink, first thing to do is just get some water, dip your pen in there. Look, it's already, because it's water-based ink, and just see if you can flush it by just sucking in some water and then evacuating it. And that usually will do a decent enough job. In this case, I'm probably going to have to do it quite a bit. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm just, like I said, sucking in water. Let me get this thing. I got to get my hands down in here. All right, and so like pretty much that's all that you really need to do in most cases, especially like I said, with these well-behaved inks. They may dry up, and that's, that's a bummer, but generally it doesn't take a whole lot to get them going again. Just, a little bit of water will work. I'm going to dump that water out. It's a lot easier if you don't have to use bottled water. I mean, it's not bottled, but it's a lot easier to do this like at a sink. So I'm going to clean out my cup a little bit, and then I'm going to put some fresh water in here. And you just basically keep going back and forth until it's not turning your water pink anymore. Right? Now, if this doesn't really work, if you don't seem to be just immediately, if you can't just kind of dip it in there and clean it out, or if it just seems like, you're sitting here doing this forever, the other thing that you can do is basically just take the whole thing apart. And you might need to do this anyway. And just literally let it soak in water. That a lot of times, especially if you've just let it dry out completely like this, you just let it sit in that water, and eventually the water will kind of break down most of the stuff, that the ink, and get everything kind of cleaned up. Now, in the worst case scenario, especially if you've got like a shimmer ink that you've let totally dry, things are just not seeming to work, or you think you cleaned it, but it's not working right, then you can make your own pen flush. And it's 10 parts of water to 1 part ammonia. So in the worst case scenario, and what you would do is just let it soak in this stuff. You could suck it in and out if you wanted to. But a lot of times it just takes like soaking in this ammonia water mix, and that should fix any real problems that you have. If it's been maybe years and it was the worst ink on the planet, you might even toss a little bit of this ammonia solution into your what are they called? What are those things called? Like your sonic cleaner thing. that can also help break up any dried chunky junk. But I would still recommend, just let it soak in there for a little while. I mean, you could maybe leave it in overnight. I don't know what the recommendation is for that, but a lot of times if you let it soak for a little bit first, then you can kind of move forward and things kind of work out. An easier way to go, you can buy these little bulb things, and that's kind of easier. You got like a cup of water, suck in the water, and you can kind of, squeeze it through your parts. But what I've found for the nib itself is actually, if you can find one of these syringes, that's by far the easiest way to go. And I'm going to stop and see if there's any comments here in a second. I've been kind of paying attention to what I'm doing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a different cup. Where did I get these cups from? Let me get a different cup real quick. I'm going to put just fresh water in this cup, and I wanted to show you the syringe method because I actually like that by far the best. It forces water through. So this takes a while, and it's just kind of cumbersome sitting there twisting, this thing up and down and messing around with all that. Eventually, especially if you're changing colors, you're really going to need to clean this thing really good. So just be aware of that. I don't plan to change colors. I just want to make sure that my nib's working. But if you take your syringe, and you don't even need a tip or anything, because these syringes fit perfectly on the back of your nib. So that's why I really like this. You don't need any special tools. You just need to get one of these syringe thingies. And cleaning like this is probably going to get your hands all full of ink. So that's why gloves if you don't want ink all over yourself, gloves are a good way to go. So I'm going to pull in some water. This just seems to kind of accelerate things, and you're kind of forcing it. You need to be a little bit careful, especially if things are like super gunked up in there. I don't know that forcing water through like this is a great idea, because there's definitely going to be more force going on if you're using the syringe. Like I said, I'm not that worried about this ink, but you can see this method, especially I'm going to suck in water from a clean thing. I was kind of just pulling in the dirty water and then squirting it back out originally. This works a lot better because you can really see it's already lightening. I don't know if you could tell, but the color of the water coming out of the nib is already getting significantly lighter. And so this is probably my preferred method of really getting in there and cleaning out the nib. I mean, it's almost clear just after doing a couple rounds with this. Oh, ran out of water there. So hopefully, if you haven't gotten into fountain pens, or you're maybe, I don't know. I mean, I think one thing for me, I'm like, oh, these seem to be kind of a pain in the butt. I don't know about this fountain pen thing. Still got some pink in there. So I don't want to sit here and do this for forever today, but I just wanted to kind of show you there's a few different tools that you can use to kind of clean your nibs. I'm probably just going to let this soak in this cup of water for a while. I don't think I need to do the ammonia thing. I would generally stay away from ammonia if you don't need to use it. It's just, if you don't need to use a harsh chemical, then don't, for most things, And I got a lot of ink stuck in my part there. Maybe I shouldn't have done this in the fresh cup, but I'm going to have to wash that out again. But hopefully that cleaned that out. And again, worst case scenario, I mean, just dump this into your sonic cleaner, and that'll also clean all this stuff out. I would probably recommend trying to get most of the ink out if you can do all this stuff. Clean it as much as possible, and then you can throw everything in there. And I think even your nib should be safe in a sonic cleaner. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. But the problem is, I think a lot of the pigment stuff got it's still dried in the feeder part. So I think it's best to just kind of let this soak for a little bit. Hopefully it'll kind of break down a lot of that stuff. And I think that's probably the easiest first step, is just let it soak for like a day in water. That should hopefully break up a lot of stuff. Then pull out your tools, like if you got a syringe, and just kind of go at it, you know, trying to get as much of that stuff out. In worst case scenario, you can pull out the ammonia, you can put it in the sonic cleaner and get everything nice and cleaned up. Now, what I've found, you can take some of these things apart. I don't know what they're called. Whatever, the ink cartridge thing. You can take some of them apart and get all the parts cleaned, like throw it in like a sonic cleaner and make sure everything's gone. But if you can get it mostly clean by just doing the, you know, suck in some water thing and then spit it out. And again, I would recommend getting a clean cup of water, suck in the clean and then eject it into usually just the sink or whatever. Until it's really kind of cleaned up. It's not spitting out any color. If you can get it pretty close, then once you just put the other color in, it eventually, maybe there'll be a little bit of mixing, but you know, the other color is going to have significantly more of the pigment and it's going to take over eventually. So you can usually do that. So anyway, let's see. Let me stop real quick and see if there's any questions or any thoughts about this. Nope, not really. All right, cool. So I don't know if that was helpful or not, but I always kind of found like I didn't know much about fountain pens for a long time, and I didn't take the time to actually, you know, learn anything. Nobody stuck it in front of my face kind of thing. And so for many years, I didn't know anything about fountain pens, and I was just like, I don't know. They seem kind of odd and weird. I think I'll just stay away from them. But I think the more that you learn, you know, there's really not much to these things. There's not much going on. They're pretty easy to clean. Like I said, if you don't want the ink on your fingers, it does wash off in like a couple days just through normal hand washing and showering. But if you don't want to have pink hands all over, put some gloves on and you'll be good. If you get this ink on your clothes, though, that's a different story. So just be careful, you know, with the ink. It will stain clothes and probably won't come out. But overall, as long as you keep it off your clothes, you should be pretty good. So I'm going to put all these things away, and then we'll get to some casting here. I can't wait to do some casting. I'm hungry, man. Right before we started the stream, I'm like, oh, the stomach starts growling. I was like, dang it. Gonna be hungry the whole stream today. That's okay though. Let's get this watermelon out of the way. And just to let you know, I'm having more thoughts about one of the problems with this pigment thing. So we're going to kind of switch gears here, and I'll let you guys know what I'm kind of thinking about. One problem with the pigment thing is I can only come out with so many colors. Like, it's going to get prohibitively expensive for me to keep stock of like 50,000 different colors, right? So the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards probably coming out with a line of the standard colors and helping people mix their own colors. I think that's a better way to go, rather than, you know, you guys having to pick to buy every single color, you know, that I make. It probably is easier to have a lot of the standard. Now, I'm not going to get rid of the custom ones, and I'm probably going to come out with more, but I mean, I can't have 500 different colors. It's just, eventually I'm going to have to not, you know, stop coming out with, you know, new invented colors kind of thing, pre-mixed colors. You know, but that's very preemptive. The whole point of coming out with 5 and going through this process is just seeing how this works. Like, if nobody buys these things, then I'm going to have to just give up on it, obviously. You can't sell a product that people don't want to buy. But if, you know, things are going pretty well, I've learned learned some hard lessons along the way about how things need to work, you know, selling this stuff. And people are, you know, it's starting to pick up a little bit. Then down the road, I think probably sooner than later, I'll probably come out with some more standard colors. That way you guys can kind of get in there. I just think it's fun. Like, I've already said this. The ideal situation is to have people experimenting, making your own colors, and being able to do that. I think that's more powerful than me coming out with 500,000 different variants of, green. So just to let you know some of my thoughts that are going through my brain. But like I said, baby steps first. We'll come out with these first 5, and I'll probably, even before I come out with standard colors, possibly come out with a couple other ones. We've already talked about tractor green is something, that Kelly green is a really nice color. So we already have other colors that are kind of interesting. But first things first, like I said. So let's do some casting here. Let's make some Patriotic blanks. I'm excited about this. I think this will be fun. So we're going to do the Beast, the 12 blanks. And again, I'm kind of switching gears. I was very adamant about the reason that I made my own molds off the bat, because the P-Town subby molds are excellent. They work fine. My only issue with them was the length. I kind of wanted to go for 5.5. I'm kind of retracting some of that stuff, because what I realized is shipping these blanks, 5.25 is really the maximum length that makes the most sense, because you can fit 20 of those things or maybe more standing up in a small flat rate box. Once you break 5.25, then everything has to go sideways, and it starts to become kind of a shipping nightmare. So we'll have to see. I think I might switch some of this stuff. The other thing that I didn't like, and I did make my own tall molds, but these are a pain to make. I don't like making them for myself at all. I don't really like making these, honestly. Silicone molds is not my favorite hobby. But I wanted to have 9-inch tall things, and that was the other problem. All the other molds that are on the market were like 8.5 exactly, but you lose length. And I didn't like that 8 to 8.5 thing, but again, it goes back to the same thing. You can fit 8 to 8.5 inch blanks sideways in a small flat rate box. 8.5 doesn't really fit. So you learn things as you go. So I'm probably going to kind of switch those, my longer ones. I'm still going to try and keep them as long as possible, but the length was the main thing. I also liked the Gatling style, but now that I've been using, especially this 12 guy, it's kind of nice to have things in straight lines also. So for anybody that's looking for, vertical casting molds, silicone ones, got to be honest, the P-Town ones are great. And they've been the standby for like 10 years or more, probably, for people. They're great. They work fine as long as the sizes, the 3/4 inch and all that kind of stuff. Everything works for you with the dimensions. They're excellent molds, and I'm going to probably be using more of them myself, because I don't like making molds particularly. I'd rather bottle pigments. It's so much fun. So, all right, let's quit gabbing and let's get to casting here. So we got our Beast, and I mean, I could have maybe, I could do 2. I like having 12 right here and everything's good to go. But the other problem with the Gatling molds is I actually waste a lot of resin. I cut off a lot on the ends, and it's unnecessary. It's just kind of a waste. I can change the dimensions of them, but like I said, I got other things to think about. All right, so let's pull out our book here. So we need to kind of figure out what's going on. So these things take about 45 grams per tube. That's what P-Town recommends. We've gone up to like 50, and that's really too much. I think 45 actually kind of accounts for having a little extra in your cup and all kinds of different things. So I think we're going to estimate based on that 45 grams. I got to be honest, I'm not even sure if I've actually done a pour in this, estimating it at 45. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if we have any left over or not. It'll be a good kind of experiment. So we got our book here. We're going to do, and we're just going to do one pour today. I wanted to kind of do that little fountain pen thing as kind of the extra content today. So today is, what day is this? 5/24. Jeez. It's going to be summer in a hot minute, literally. All right, so we're doing Patriotic Memorial Day blanks. So we're going to go with, I like to put what mold I'm using, which resin. We're going to be using the clear slow. And I know that that's what the label says this time. So we got our 12 minutes this time. So this thing takes 45 grams times 12, which I think is so interesting. Is that right? 45 times 12? Yep. So that takes about 500. So what I'm going to do is that's 540 grams total. What I'm going to do, I'm going to lie. We're going to go to just 550. It just makes, it's a nice round number, you know. So 550. That'll give us any extra that we might need. And then we got 3 colors. All right, so 550. Yeah, 275. I'm writing down, it's 275 grams times 2. We're using a 1-to-1 ratio resin. Now, we want basically 50% to be blue, 50% to be red, or well, 25% to be red, 25% to be white. So let's just do it straight up, 275, and then, and actually, what I'm going to do, just to make sure that everything goes well, I'm just gonna call this 270. It'll also make the math work out, I think, a little bit better. Let's see here. Yeah. Just basically to make the math kind of work out. 140 and 140. So there's just a little bit extra red and white. It's not really significant, but it just makes all the numbers kind of work out good. And we're going to go with this is going to be the new navy blue. And then, so for the blue, again, what we want to do is we want to add a little bit of starlight glitter. And I don't know how well this is going to turn out. I'm not sure. What we're trying to do is add a little bit of stars to the blue. We'll see how well that works. What I'm going to do is we're going to put 2% in. I'm going to evaluate that. Just to kind of see where we're at with that. But 2% is kind of low. Generally, I go for up to 5% with the blues. If I'm going for super opaque, I'll put like 4, maybe even up to 5%. One thing that I need to figure out with my pigments is what the maximum is. We haven't done that yet. So that'll be kind of a fun one. We might do that on the next casting version, so not next week we'll turn the pen, but we might just kind of play around with different amounts of pigments and just see if we can just get to the point where that caused a problem for sure. So anyway, we're going to go 2% on 270. So that's about 5.4 grams. And then we got red and we got white. Reds tend to be, the red pigments tend to be a little bit on the lighter side. So again, at this point, I've just gotten to the point where with these liquid pigments, if I'm going for opaque, pretty much I'm putting, most of the time, I'm putting 4% in to go for totally opaque. The white, anything that's got the white, it's a titanium dioxide is what makes white. And that tends to be one of the strongest pigments in general. I think they're larger chunks. So anything with white in it, if you've mixed, pink and you put red and white together or something like that, if you're adding the white to something, if the base, has that white, a lot of times that's going to be a little bit more opaque. It just helps to be a little bit like a stronger, in a sense, pigment. And that goes across the board. I don't care what kind of pigment. Pretty much all the whites, regardless of the brand, are going to be titanium dioxide. That's why white is heavy, number one. And that's why white is a little bit more opaque in most of your pigments. So for the red, we're going to put in 4%. And you can adjust these. You don't have to put 4% in, but generally, if you're going for like the most opaque, put more pigment in. At this point, before I do a lot of testing, I wouldn't recommend going above 5% with mine. And generally that's kind of usually the upper limit for almost every pigment brand. I don't know how much safety net is built into that 5% number though. That's why I want to do my own experiments and just get to the point where it actually caused a curing issue. So we know, okay, you cannot put more than this in for sure. But 5% generally is a good upper limit for pretty much any pigment. Now with the white, I'm just going to put 2.5%. I think that's plenty. Again, white tends to be more strong, I guess. So that 2.5% is 3.5 grams, 4% for the red is going to be 5.6 grams. Okay, so we got our numbers ready. Now, again, I'm going to put notes here. We're going to use the split cup for the red and white. That's going to be an interesting, these are going to be kind of fun blanks. We're really doing some fun stuff here. Now, the one problem with doing the split cup is the way that I take the temperature and know when to pour. I generally like to stir up the resin, then take the temperature. And I do that every single time just to keep it consistent. That way, when I'm writing down when did I do this, it's a consistent way of doing it. Some people just let the cup sit there and they just take the surface temperature. The only issue, there's not a problem with that as long as you always do that. But the problem with that is the middle of the cup is actually the warmest. So you'll have to adjust numbers depending on how you're doing your temperature reading. But when I put it in this weird cup, it kind of changes things. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on it, and I'm not going to pour it into the split cup until I hit probably like 95. And then what I want to do is probably pour this stuff at like probably like 105, probably 110. Really is a little bit better to try and keep things even more separated. And it's 71 in my shop, so 105 is probably plenty, but I might kind of stretch it. But it's going to be kind of a not so accurate for my normal numbers once I pour it into the split cup. You can stir it up and do all that, but it kind of changes things because it's not round. I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense in my own brain. So we're also going to add Starlight. So we got 270 grams of resin. I think I would probably put in, it's tough because we want to put enough in to where we get little specks of stars and we're dealing with an opaque thing. So I would lean towards, like we're not just putting it in clear resin or something like that, right? Or transparent, totally transparent. We're putting it in an opaque, color. So I would lean towards putting more in to be able to see it, but there's also kind of an upper limit where you've kind of put too much in. So let's just kind of take a peek at it after I put a teaspoon of the Starlight glitter. And again, this is the chunkier Starlight that I sell on my website. We also have a gold one. I don't know that gold is really the way to go for this. I think these are better for like the stars. I wish I had like white, but I don't. So, is there anything else we need? So I'm going to pour at around, like I said, I'm probably going to pour the blue in much earlier because that's not as dependent. Now, even with that, I want to have more time and it's not like blending necessarily, but hopefully I can make this make sense. If I've got blue, let's just say that I was doing like a 2-color pour. Or I don't know, whatever. I guess we're doing this, okay? So we're doing what we're doing. If I've got the blue in the cup and I pour it right away, once I've, the change of like volume, like 270 grams in 1 cup is going to get hotter quicker. It's going to heat up more, basically, right? But once I pour into these little tiny tubes, how fast the blue heats up is going to slow down, basically, okay? Now, we could also do this 2 different ways. I could pour the red and white in first, and then pour blue on top, which could make sense. Or I can pour the blue in and then pour the red and white on top. I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? I don't know that I can think of any reason to do it one way or the other. I kind of like blue on the bottom because we want that to be thicker. I don't know. I can't, I'm not sure which way to go on that. I think maybe because we definitely have white, if we're doing red and white. White is generally going to be, I mean, this is definitely heavier than the blue, right? So the white is going to want to sink more. So technically, the more I think about it, I actually think we want to pour the red and white in first. Let that sink to the bottom, and then the blue, it's still going to mix with the red and white down below a little bit, but I think that it might be a little bit better. It'll be lighter and not want to sink as much, maybe. I think that's probably the way to do it. So, and that also kind of helps me out a little bit because, like I said, once I put this stuff in this split cup, the temperature number kind of gets a little bit fuzzy. It's not as accurate and easy to figure out. If the blue's in its own cup, I can do my normal method and I know exactly what temperature the blue's at, which helps me know when to pour these other things a little bit better. So let's do it that way. We're going to pour red and white first. And I'm going to pour those at basically I'm going to be relying on the blue cup. Now, what I've found is red tends to heat up faster. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind. I think I'm probably going to put the red dye in like last in the red cup that I mix up. Because initially I'm going to have 3 different cups, okay? We're going to have red, white, and blue. I'm going to put the red and white, dump that in at some point into this thing. But I'm going to be using the blue cup because I can do my normal method of temperature checking. We're going to pour that in. We're going to pour the split cup at probably like 100 degrees. This gets kind of technical, I understand, but I'm trying to, just based on things that I've done in the past, understanding when to do things can help. And you may not know, like a lot of times you're like, oh, let me just do this way. But I've done things enough, like I said, the weight thing with the white and doing different things, understanding my temperature thing, this is going to probably be the best way for me to do this. We're going to go, so we're not going to stir or do anything, no stir stick at all. And then I'm going to pour blue when it's at 110. And I could even maybe go higher than that, honestly. It's not like I got to stir or do anything. I could probably go to one. I think we're going to switch that. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on it, but I'm going to write down 115 actually for the blue. That'll give what's in the mold a little bit more time to kind of set up and be able to kind of hold up the blue without mixing too much, like letting it sink in. And the blue will be thicker when I pour it, so it won't tend to want to go through. Now, like I said, there's no way to pour the liquids and not have them mix a little bit, but hopefully what we get is a decent amount on the bottom that is separated red and blue, or red and white. Yeah, but Jennifer, the problem is the way the American flag is, the red and white stripes go together. That's why I'm doing it this way. And then you've got kind of the big block of blue. That, in my head, that makes the most sense. And I can pour the stars into the blue, and that's what we're kind of going for. Realistically, though, we're really not going to get pink. I really don't think that's going to be a problem at all. Again, because we're pouring it at a high enough temp. Now, pouring the red and white at a lower temperature maybe you could make that argument. But I think even at 100, the way this works, like I said, with the split cup thing, we're not mixing it all together and dumping it. That would make things a little bit more challenging, and red and white can tend to kind of mix together. But the way this is going to go, there may be a slight pink in the middle where they kind of meet, like a slight one, but I really don't think, we'll have to see in the end. You know, we'll have to see who you know, if we get pink, I'll be like, shoe in my mouth. But I just don't really think that that's a concern. Okay, so I think we're good. I think we got all the notes that we need. Let me go get a big mix cup. $270. I got to think about how much resin this is. So I'm pretty sure that this cup is going to be okay. It'll hold the 280 total grams of red and white. 280. I don't know about the 16-ounce cup though. One argument for using ounces for your measurements is if you're using a 16-ounce cup, it's a lot easier to know how many ounces will fit in your 16-ounce cup if you're not using grams. But, oh yeah, we're fine. But I do know what I normally put in here grams-wise, so I just needed to figure out individually what we're at. So that's good. We got our three colors. We got our mixed cup there. We got our red, white, and blue. I think we're ready, guys. Now, for any of these liquid pigments, the opaque type ones, as opposed to if you buy the Alumilite, the translucent ones, for the most part, most of the translucent ones don't really need to be shaken up a whole lot. You can, and just to make sure if you want, but I find that this stuff stays in solution. You don't really need to shake it up too much. However, the Alumilite brand, they're white and black. Again, that's more similar. It's this type of a pigment, really. It's not a see-through translucent dye kind of thing. The other ones that I would recommend is their fluorescents. You have to shake black and white, again, from the Alumilite line. But pretty much most, brown, purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, none of those things need to be shaken really. However, anything that's these opaque type, so mine, Divine Pigments, the eye candy, their pasty stuff, you got to stir that up. Anything that's like that, you're going to want to shake, and shake well. Get it, especially if it's been sitting on the shelf like this has for a little while. I'm gonna switch to this view. One other tip, and this, no pun intended. I had mentioned that originally I was thinking about going with, and unfortunately I already bought them, like 3,000 of them. Originally I was gonna go with this type of like flip top cap. But the problem that I found is and at first they seemed to work pretty well. They weren't any worse than, like messy wise, than these twist caps. Eventually what I figured out though is the pigment ends up getting like all the way around this disc top thing, and they're like way messier and it's a pain. It really kind of sucks because these are a lot cheaper than these twist ones, and it would have been nice, but now I know why nobody uses them. So on mine, we're going with this type of twist cap for the pigments going forward. But I wanted to kind of show you one thing that ends up happening, and this is why I was kind of thinking about switching to a different top. This happens to me all the time. I grab a pigment off the shelf with one of these twist caps, and I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, that actually... Come on, focus. Let me just do the other. It's amazing with cameras that have automatic focus, never do that. I don't know if this is even working. See how it's all wet? There's stuff all over it, okay? That's actually not that bad, but if you don't wipe off the tip when you close it every single time, like diligently, you're gonna have decent enough blob of pigment on the top, and if you just pick it up and start shaking this thing all over the place, like heavily, you're going to have pigment, little dots of pigment all over your shop. So, two ways to deal with that. Either really diligently wipe it off before you start shaking it, or grab yourself a paper towel and just cover it, basically. Now, it's a little bit harder with this is a 4-ounce bottle. I'm not even selling any of those. With the 1 and the 2-ounce bottles, you know, it's much easier to just put something over top of that thing and start shaking it, right? Even the 2-ounce bottles probably will work that way. But bare minimum, I recommend, because the problem is you don't even know it, and it gets on your clothes, it gets on the pressure pot, and then you touch it, and then you touch your clothes and your eye, and I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't like having pigment all over my shop. So just be aware that these twist tops, there is no cap on the planet that doesn't cause some sort of a mess at some point. That's what I found. I tried literally every type of cap on the market and settled on these. So, but definitely shake it up really well, because there's, you know, different types of pigments mixed together in a lot of these types of things. And I don't care if it's my brand or someone else's. You really want to make sure that you've mixed things really well. With the eye candy ones in the jars, which that's just a pain. I'm never going to use those. Divine Pigments, that's how theirs were originally, and they quickly got rid of the jar thing because nobody likes it. But make sure you're scraping the sides and doing that. The eye candy ones seem to be, at least the ones that I've tried, were super thick. So you really want to get in there and mix that up. Being thicker, theirs may not tend to settle as much, maybe. I don't know. But definitely give everything a good mix. Same with this. At this point, I'm pretty diligent about wiping off the tip. When I close it, I wipe it off. However, even as diligent as I am with this stuff, there's little drips of little dots all over the place. So just be careful about that. Randy had a question. Yeah, I 3D print those. I can't go and find the link. I didn't design them. I'm using something I think off like printables or I don't know where it was. I do have the link somewhere. I definitely have it in like I'm probably, if you really want to go find it right now, if you go find my split cup video, there's a link to it. I'll have to go and find that, and what I'll do is I'll put it in the show notes, or you know, whatever, the after the fact. So for the replay, you'll be able to go and find that. I didn't think about, well, using split cups was something that I thought about like after we started the stream, so I didn't have time to pre get that. And I'm being a little bit, maybe I'm overdoing all this shaking right now, but I really want to hammer it home that, you know, if you don't shake it up, what ends up happening is you may, you know, in the case of the navy blue, and this actually happened to me, I think that I poured some blanks, and I think I thought that I shook it up, and I didn't. And what ended up happening was the black and the blue settled a little bit, and this navy blue ended up being a lot more just blue on a batch of blanks that I did. And so in subsequent pours with this same thing, it can change things if you don't shake it up enough. So make sure you give it a good shake, and then you'll be good to go. All right, so let's go to the overhead. Yeah, and there's lots of them. If you just look up, I think they call them like split cup. I mean, you can find your own. If you want the specific one that I'm using, which is a pretty good one, because there's some that I don't think work particularly well for resin. Actually, some designs that I was like, no, I found this one, and it had a few things that I liked. One issue that you actually have on some of the files that are out there if you read the comments, the separator thing, the way that they built the file, it doesn't 3D print well. Like it doesn't, in some cases you could get it where like this divider didn't, like there's like holes in it basically. So just make sure you read the comments and all that kind of stuff if you're looking at some random file. One other thing that I recommend, and this is going to be a really technical thing for people that do 3D printing. If you see on the side, see that? There's little bumps and all kinds of weird stuff. What you do not want to do is have a seam, so like where every new layer starts, being in exactly the point, because I actually did this on the first one. You don't want your layer to start in the same place, and what ends up happening is you'll get a seam up the side. And I don't know the name, maybe one of you guys that does 3D printing more can help me out, but you basically have to, there's a setting where you can tell it to start at a different point for every layer, and that's why there's all these little blobs all over the place. I wasn't concerned about what it looks like or anything like that, but if you have that seam running along this thing, it'll like break loose. So you want to do the, whatever it's called. Yeah, and if you can like even beef up the walls and do stuff, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but you know, you don't want your resin colors to mix. That's the whole point of having this cup. So there are a few things that you can do in your own settings to kind of make sure that you get a good thing. Random seam location. Yeah, there you go. Or yeah, maybe random Z starts. I have a bamboo lab and I'm not sure. But the first one that I printed, that happened, and I was kind of like, oh, is this thing, you know, good enough? And it like broke loose right away, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I found that setting. Okay, let's do some casting. I'll quit talking. Sorry. Lumalite clear slow. I love you, friend. All right, so we need 275 times 2. Lots of little tips and tidbits today. I mean, honestly, I went way over. That's okay. I'm actually happy about that. I talked a lot, but I think that, especially for people that didn't know some of these things, like some of these things were kind of really important, you know? So I went over my number, but all I have to do, this is one of the reasons I like 1-to-1 mix ratios. All I got to do is just put the same number that I had, which was 278.3. I just got to make sure I don't go way over on the second pour. And actually, I typically go a little over with clear slow. That's actually something I wanted to mention. You know, so I got the wrong resin. I was using a Lumalite clear, like the regular version, the 7-minute working time one. And I got to remember, again, the red tends to heat up resin faster for some reason. I don't know, that's kind of been my experience. So I'm going to do that one probably last. Let me just think about some of this. Sometimes the white can be actually a little bit slower, it almost seems. It's kind of weird. So different colors, different pigments can kind of affect the resin a little bit, but yeah, blue. In fact, I think I'm going to do blue first, then white, and then red. We'll just see how that goes. But anyway, going back to what I was saying. So with Lumalite clear slow, a lot of times I'll add just a little bit. I mean, we're talking like a gram more, part B, for a few various reasons. I don't recommend this for any other resin. And I'm even going to say that you don't need to do that with Lumalite clear, like the regular version, the 7-minute, only with the slow version. And the reason is, if back in the day, what I found is, if for some reason when you're pouring and you end up with more part A than B in the cup, you can get some haziness sometimes. And so I've always just kind of loaded B a little bit heavier with clear slow. Okay, Lumalite clear slow. That's the only resin that I recommend. If you're using some epoxy or Total Boat or liquid diamonds or any of that stuff, you need to nail even, you know, whatever they say, follow the directions exactly. But with Lumalite clear regular, like the regular version, the 7-minute, you don't need to do that. There's no reason to do that. Just A and B equal amounts. There's the reasons that I do that in the slow are not an issue with the regular version, the slower, or the 7-minute version of clear from Lumalite. quality tab. There you go. Yeah, I know. I wish that a few years ago I would have had Nikki just make me a split cup pour, because I'm not really a 3D modeler. I don't really know. I did create my original pinstripe 3D print and honeycomb files. I did actually model those myself, but the problem is I don't know. There's some things, like if you don't do things in the right orders, and I don't know, there's technical things that can kind of blow a 3D print especially. And it took me so long to figure out how to do that, and it's simple. Like, it's not hard to do what I did, and it took months for me to figure out how to do it right. So, I mean, really, how much money is it worth your time to sit there and mess with that? And I can't play with a 3D model like Fusion 360 or something enough to learn and get proficient. So it's just not worth it for me. I just do it like, I have like a spurt of doing, that kind of thing, and then I don't do it for like a month. And so, let's see here. So 270. So I would much rather just pay someone else to do 3D modeling for me. But these worked good enough. I think that there could be some improvements to this design, but it works, like I said, it's good enough. And I think there are settings to kind of be able to change like the thickness or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a 3D printing expert either, so I know enough to get by for what I need, but I can't really help other people too well. Yeah, I know the phone typing. All right, so we need 5.4 grams of this. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, it's so weird, that one. I did a batch of blanks, and like I always shake things up, and I think it was like one of the first batches after I realized that I didn't have clear slow. I was using the regular, and I was kind of like, oh, I gotta hurry. So I think it was enough to break my kind of concentration. Yeah, that might have been actually a little bit more. Might have gone with like, oh, that was 2%, huh? Well, we'll have to see how this looks. Again, this is something that you really need to kind of do some experiments with to see, okay, how much pigment, can I put in and still see these stars? So we may have to make some adjustments to this to get the effect. And in reality, possibly there's no way to do it. It may not look good no matter what we do, unless we barely put any pigment in. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out though. So 3.5 grams here, the white. With these two, we're definitely going for more on the opaque side. So like I said, I close it with this and try to get as much off as possible so that I don't have that issue the next time I open it up. But I mean, eventually, you're going to get pigment all over the place on these things. There's just no way to keep them totally clean, unfortunately. Dang, I actually could have put this in a smaller cup, but I wasn't really thinking. Bigger cups are nice. The bigger the cup, though, the more it's kind of spread out, and it may heat up a little slower, which for the red is actually a good thing. And then we want 140. I don't know if we're going to get to 140 here. we'll get it as close as possible. It's not going to really affect anything. Being like 3 grams off. Actually, we might be able to get pretty close here. So we'll just keep scraping it out. That's close enough. Good enough. And I'm still going to go back and shake this again, even though I stood there and shook it for quite a while, you know. Just give it one more quick shake, make sure all the particles are, let's see, 5.6 on the red. There we go. I've been using the regular version of clear for a few weeks now, and it's actually nice to be able to just kind of move at a human pace, not have so much to worry about. The only problem is now I got to sit and wait longer. Like 10 minutes would be like the perfect working time for most things with you know, pen blanks. 12 minutes even, I'm like, got some spare time here. All right, so we're doing the red and the white in the split cup first. I got to keep my brain alive here. We're going to do that and then pour them in. Now, like I said, I'm just going to try to get them about somewhere between 1/3 to 1/2, you know, with the red and white. One issue with doing the red and the white first that I didn't really think about is it's going to be a lot more difficult to come back and do it again. You know, like if you just start pouring, let it go, you know, wherever, you really get a pretty good separation of red and white on one, you know, red on one side, white on the other, and it's amazing. I don't even understand how it physically works. But to come back and do it again, that could kind of screw things up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing a little bit closer to my face so I can really kind of see down in there. Generally, I actually recommend keeping, wherever you're pouring into, keeping it kind of keeping your face away from it a little bit, because if it splashes and the resin gets in your eye, you're going to be an unhappy camper. So if you're doing something where you got to get your face in there and there could be a splash problem, definitely, and I have safety glasses close. I don't usually use them because, like I said, I usually pour things where you know, even if it's splashed out, worst case scenario is it could maybe hit my clothes, but it's really not going to get my eye. If you're going to be sticking your head in there, go get some safety glasses. You know, two minutes of wearing safety glasses is well worth it compared to hours in the emergency room, possibly, because it hurts. How do I determine? A lot of times you really need to just test. So the question from Randy was, how do you determine how much pigment? It really, you need to just kind of do some testing. I've been doing nothing but testing for months at this point with this pigment. So I kind of know where I'm at with things. So we're going to pour the red and the white together. I have been kind of just talking and not paying attention really here. So got to get going. We're at 99 on whatever that one was. Is that just the white? So I was actually going to go off of blue, which might be higher even. Yeah, that's at like 103. So we want to get these guys in, and I'm going to pour these actually right away, because I wanted to pour these at about 100. We're going to probably wait till about 115 for the blue. That was kind of the game plan. All right, so I'm going to get the blue out of the way so I don't tip it over. And then I'm going to, like, telling you guys to put safety glasses on, and I got mine sitting on my top of my head. Now, the thing with the split cup is you want to orient it so that they're going to come out about even. Yeah, that's okay. Kind of hard to see down in there. Oh, that one went way higher than I wanted. And that could happen, you know. I'm having a difficult time seeing down in there. I'm going to be completely honest. I think I'm going to turn this kind of around. And this may not even work. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know. That's why we're trying this, to see what we can get. No, that one was not enough. I'm going to have to redo it. I didn't do it well enough. Worst case scenario, we got kind of swirly red, white, and blue going on, you know. That'll be okay even. Maybe a little bit of pink. I don't know. I think I'm actually going backwards on these. This is a little bit harder than I... Oh, shoot, I got to get the Starlight glitter in. Great. So we're putting a teaspoon in. We're just going to have to kind of probably go with that because I think this blue is where it needs to be. Yeah, that could kind of work. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. What temperature are we at with the blue? Yep, we're about there. Okay, so let's try this blue, and I'm going to pour it kind of soft, trying not to let it, it's going to mix, okay? There's no way to get around it. It's going to mix a little bit. But I'm going to try to pour it kind of lightly, and hopefully the initial splashdown down in there, you know, that'll kind of mix a little bit with the red and the white, but as things go, if you just keep pouring it kind of like I'm doing, carefully, let's call it, then eventually it's going to be all blue. And luckily we don't have to stir or do anything like that. So I've got a little extra time here. I've been using a different resin, so you know, my timing is maybe a little bit thrown off. But I will say that the regular and the clear slow, the temperatures are pretty much the same. I think you could actually start pouring a little bit earlier with the regular version. Like maybe 5 degrees lower than you normally would with the slow. But I think for the most part, it's pretty much the same. So if you wanted to just get a resin that had, you know, like a faster working time, because there's advantages. Like I wasn't super mad that they sent me the wrong one. I was actually thinking about, oh, see, not enough blue. This is exactly what I was mentioning. So we're going to have to, that one will be kind of a dud. We can probably just cut that off and turn it. But this looks kind of interesting. And I do think we might, I don't know, the Starlight thing might work with this. I don't know. That definitely looks patriotic on the top there. What do you guys think of that? Ha. So the nice thing is, you know, I've got kind of a plan in my head on what I wanted, you know, like a couple things I was shooting for red and white, kind of fairly separated as like lines on the bottom there. And then I wanted this blue to have some kind of speckles in it that, you know, looked a little bit hopefully it reminds us of like stars, like the flag. But we may get a lot more mixing than I wanted. Layering those two different sections together is probably not going to be, you know, this bold division line between the red and the white, you know, part and then the blue. I'm pretty sure we're going to have this kind of in the middle section where the red, white, and blue all kind of mix together a little bit. And then we'll have kind of hopefully, you know, this red and white section that's primarily just that. And then we'll have like this section that's just blue. So definitely think that the best way to go for this is a two-piece pen. All right. Depending on what the results are with this, depending on what actually happened in there. If we go with a two-piece pen, we can cut out the middle more and take blanks from the ends where hopefully we've got more red and white and more blue. Now, if you want to go for definite division on a two-piece pen, then, and maybe I should have just done this, you can just go with pour red and white all the way up the tube. And this would have been a lot easier if I would have thought more about this. But if you have to be going for a two-piece pen on this for sure. Just pour the red and the white. Half that mold would have just been the red and the white, filled to the, you know, bottom to top, and then the other part just blue. I didn't really think about that. Do a two-piece pen, get the blue on the top, the red and the white on the bottom, and, you know, Bob's your uncle. So that would be a much easier way to do this. I just wasn't, you know, I like to complicate things to the point and then be like, oh, you know, there's an easier way to do this. Wasn't really thinking about it. But if you were doing like, now I think that it would be very difficult to do a kitless length blank. It'd be much more difficult to do this with a kitless because the more gravity, the farther you're pouring that the resin has to like drop, the worse that everything kind of mixes together, right? So anyway, yeah. Now that I thought of that, I kind of wish we would have just poured the red and the white together. That's also going to eliminate a lot of that, oh, how much did I pour in there and all that stuff. You don't even have to worry about that. You just mix up 45 times 6, whatever, you know, half of it, and then pour it to the top, and keep doing that. And then, you know, you don't have to worry. So definitely an easier way. Sometimes you have to do something to realize, oh, this is how I should have done it. And I'll be honest, with resin casting, you know, I think it was Randy. You know, Randy asked like, oh, how much pigment do you need? How do you know how much pigment to put in there? A lot of things with resin casting, there is no answer. There's no chart. There's no, what temperature do I pour at? Well, it depends. You know, it depends on how you pour it, what resin you're using, what colorants you're putting in there, what effects you're trying to get out of it. A lot of things, the answer is always it depends. And a lot of times you're going to have to do, if you're going for something specific, you're going to have to do it a few times to figure out, okay, don't do it this way, or, oh, that worked out really well. But along the way, the beauty of it is, you know, you can say, well, that kind of sucks. It seems like I'm going to waste a bunch of resin. However, on the flip side, so I had all these little specific things that I was trying to do with this pour, right? What's probably going to happen is I didn't get it exactly right. Maybe it didn't totally blew up in my face. It didn't even come close to what I was going for. And that could be what we end up getting next week, right? But what's probably going to happen, even if everything blew up in your face and you didn't even get one part of that blank correct, you'll probably figure out like, okay, well, if I do this, I'm going to get this result. And maybe it's something that's awesome that you would have never thought of. Like, you know, you get some weird effect in the blank, which happens a lot. I mean, some of the most interesting breakthroughs or, you know, things that I've figured out how to get like some random effect. It was a total mistake. Not what I was going for. I was never even have thought of trying to do that or get that effect in resin, but I figured out, well, if I do, you know, these steps the way that I did it that one time, you know, you can get this one weird effect or something like that. And in some cases, you know, on the flip side, to bring it back down and be a little bit more of a downer, sometimes you just can't consistently get the same results. And so you'll just have to deal with that. You might try it again and you're like, nope. Now I got neither of my results that I was going for. But it's fun. You know, the process of experimenting and seeing what the results are, if you do it this, you know, way or whatever, or if you try this temperature or way of pouring things. I mean, I've done a million tests with like the stir stick thing, trying to get swirls. And the interesting thing is I'm still learning things. I mean, literally last week I tried something different, and I'm actually thinking about switching some of the things that I do to this other random method that I tried. So it's fun. You know, we have a little bit of fun with it. So I guess the moral of the story is don't get down if you didn't get what you want. I think it was, I was listening to a Make It podcast, and it was Bob over there. I think he was saying that, and I don't know where he got this quote, but it really struck home with me. When you get disappointed, when you get mad at something or whatever, in almost every single case, it's because your expectation wasn't met in that situation, or whatever it may have been. When you get upset at something, when you're disappointed, it's because your expectations weren't met, right? So that's why I always recommend, go into the resin casting thing knowing that it's extremely difficult to get very specific results. So don't set your expectations to like 100% maximum. I need to get this, out of this result. If you just lower them a little bit and realize, okay, I may not get what I want, but keep your eyes peeled for things that may be important or interesting that you do get, then you don't get so disappointed, disappointed. You're like, well, okay, that didn't work, but I got this out of it, so that's kind of cool. And in some cases, the whole thing blows up in your face, and you're like, well, that just didn't work, and I didn't learn anything. I messed up. But try not to get too disappointed. All right, so let's see here. Oh, is Chad here? Was it Chad or Amy? Chad and Amy. Who is here? I don't know. Let's see here. I'm scrolling back up because I didn't miss. So I'm using my own pigments for the red and the white. Let's see here. Yeah, David, I almost forgot to put the glitter in. Let's see here. Where can you get the glitter? That's on my website, actually. So let's head over to my... I'll get a link to the Starlight glitter for you. And I've got micro Starlight as well as a golden Starlight as well. So I'm just going to link to the Starlight glitter real quick. But you can see there should be like links. So I'm gonna go to the overhead just in case anybody doesn't know. I sell 3 glitters. The gold one was actually a mistake from my supplier that turned into, I was like, well, we'll try it out. So what I use, this is called Starlight glitter on my website. And it's kind of chunkier. You can see like the little bits here, but it's very holographic, and it's a really fun one to put into stuff. It really kind of is flashy. And then what happened was my supplier sent the wrong type of, the wrong color of Starlight. And so we've got a gold one now, and this thing's actually pretty cool. So it's kind of similar-ish, sort of. Not really, but it's a little bit more similar to like the 14 karat nugget, but it's not like a mica powder. Like the 14 karat nugget, I think is a little bit, I don't know, it's different than this. This is really just like glitter, okay? 14 karat nugget is also kind of, but it's kind of a different animal, but somewhat similar, but you got more of a holographic effect, right? Where the 14 karat nugget is pretty gold only. So this one's cool. I actually need to use more of this. I don't think about it all the time because it's kind of a new product. And then my third one that I sell is the micro Starlight, and this stuff is super awesome. Like you can add this to like pretty much anything, and it just adds a lot. You don't need to add a lot of this stuff either. So again, it's another holographic. It adds like all kinds of different colors, but they're very small particles. This is a really good one. If you're going for like a burl, like a stopper or handle, like a hybrid, where you've got like burl wood and like the pointy, top of the burl. And then you're going for like either like a totally transparent, either clear or like a colored, very slightly colored, but totally see-through. This adds just a little bit, and you got to be very careful. Just add a little bit, very tiny bit to that. And it just adds a little bit of sparkle in there to like the clear things. It's really a cool one. And like I said, a little goes a long way with the micro. Even with the regular Starlight, the bigger one, you don't usually need to add a whole lot, but we got them. We got them. Let's see. Is there any other questions that I missed? Strange colors. Yeah, those are just normal blue and red. Or the blue is, so for anybody that didn't know what was going on. So the blue is this is coming out soon. I'm coming out with some pigments for anybody that doesn't know. These are all going to be my own pigments, but the blue that I used is the navy blue that's coming soon. And probably, let's just say within a month, it should be out as long as nothing goes totally sideways. That's what we use for the blue, is the navy blue that's coming out in my line of pigments. The red and the white, I'm only coming out with some unique colors for my pigments initially. So we're coming out with like a coral, kind of like a reddish orange kind of thing, a robin's egg blue or like a Tiffany blue, army green, the navy blue, and then a watermelon pink. Okay, so those are the ones that are coming out over the next couple weeks. Eventually, I'm probably going to come out with an entire line, and it's going to be those ones, but you can't get the red that I used, or you can get, the white is like just white. I mean, there's nothing, you can use any white and it would be the same thing as what mine is. The red is different than I think anybody else's. It's a more unique one, but that'll probably be coming down the road, but I want to get my feet wet with a few colors of this pigment, see how this all goes, and then evaluate. So, months from now, 6 months from now, I need to kind of see how things go. So that's what the colors that I used were. Mick Jagger. That's true. That's true. Yeah, watch me to see what you shouldn't do. It's true. Yeah, ring making, they're really good for ring making. Do I have mine? I made a ring with, I think I might, shoot. I gave it to Gretchen. Well, actually, there might be one. I think that's Opal's. Yeah, I made one with the Starlight glitter and gave it to Gretchen. I made one with watch parts. I don't know where that one went. And that was for me. What about this one? Nope, that's the abalone. Shoot. Anyway, it really looked kind of cool. It's kind of a fun one to add as like a background. I think I used the Starlight glitter and then did the little watch parts for me. And I got to be honest, I don't know I'm not a ring guy. So I can make a ring and I'm like, oh, cool. And then I don't wear it because I don't like rings. So, but it's pretty fun. Yeah, Turner's Warehouse has my glitters right now. And then they are going to be carrying the pigments. So I have half their order already bottled. Again, going back to the pigments, everything's ready for the first 5 pretty much. I do need to finish bottling, like my own inventory is one thing. But I'm actually waiting on the labels. That's like the final hurdle with like the whole process. I need to make sure that our artwork worked and everything. So I had to get some, like I got one color ordered because it would have cost the same amount if I bought 1,000 of these things or just one. So I got one color ordered. And so I just need to look at the physical thing and make sure that it's what I expected. and everything's working, and then I'll buy all the labels. And so within a few weeks, everything will be ready. The other thing that I need to do is get these products on my website. And then what we're going to do is probably do like soon a pre-order type deal, just to kind of get things, just to make sure, because it's not that I'm worried that I'm going to run out and not be able to make more or something like that. Like I just need to order more. But if you want to get them right away, you might want to do the pre-order to make sure you're first in line, because I'm only going to, I don't know how much inventory to keep on hand. I don't know how popular these things are going to be. So I don't know, you know, it won't take that long to refill them really, but I mean, it is going to take probably weeks to get them like refilled if I run out like the first week or something like that. So, but like I said, I'm going to have some on my website. Turner's Warehouse will have some on theirs. And so you can get them both places. And I'm hoping that I can expand. I haven't really talked to anybody yet. I want to get my head wrapped around this pigment stuff, bottling and all the stuff that's going on. Then I'm going to start seeing if I can wholesale with other people. And so hopefully it'll be available even more places. So I'm excited about the pigments too. So just I don't know, we'll do a little fun. We'll do a little fun thing. While I got you here, and I got some bottled, it's very exciting. So these guys are just waiting for labels. So what's going to come out is, like I said, the 5 colors. There's army green, coral, robin egg, navy blue, and watermelon. And there's going to be a 1 ounce and a 2 ounce bottle. And what I really like, and I'm very proud about this because it took me a long time to find a bottle. So the problem that I have with a lot of the bottle pigments that are on the market is the bottles are hard. Like they don't squeeze. The 1 ounce ones are squeezy bottles. The 2 ounce ones are squeezy bottles. I'm very excited about that. And again, we're going to go with the twisty caps. Another thing that I'm very proud of, I got to be honest, is what I really hate, and we're going to have to see how this all goes, but I do believe that mine should, hopefully, we're doing some testing actually right this minute, stay sealed, because I'm actually using a correct sealing machine. So hopefully, in most cases, I'm not saying that, you know, there aren't going to be some that have opened, but your pigment bottles should not all come exploded like some have in the past. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm really hoping that I really looked into the sealing thing, and I hope that these seals really work. They'll be more like the Alumilite ones where, you know, it'll be a little harder to get off, but it's not going to just fall off during shipping. So I'm very excited. It's kind of a fun, I don't know, I'm having fun with it. I hope that it goes over well. And like I said, if things go well with this first round, I'm hoping to expand. What I'd like to do is have the standard colors and really have more information about how to get your own mixed colors. You know, for me, like as the pigment business, right, it doesn't make much difference if you're going to buy some pre-mixed thing from me or if you buy the standard colors, right? So from like a business standpoint, I don't really care as long as you're buying my pigments. What I'd rather do, what I think is more valuable for people though, in the long run, is to have the standard colors and then you know how to mix them to get your own custom colors, basically. So that's kind of where I think I want to go with this. But like I said, baby steps, we'll kind of see. It'll take months before we really make any big moves. And I'll probably come out with other custom colors along the way here and there. Maybe even like some you know, like a limited run of stuff here and there. The one problem is I literally can't make 5 billion different colors and bottle them all and keep them all on the shelf, right? So that's another reason why I'd rather have standard colors and let people experiment and you know, make their own custom colors. But I think what's missing from other pigment suppliers is they don't really tell you, okay, so you want to mix your own. They say you can mix your own. We have all the standard colors. Okay, so what do I do? you know. So I'm hoping that I can bridge that gap and be like, okay, you want, you know, this whatever color, here's how to mix it. Here's what you do to try to get that. I may not give you every single dye recipe that I have personally, but I want to give you the tools to figure out how to do it on your own, regardless. Because, you know, I'm not going to take questions from, you know, 50,000 emails. How do I get this color? I want you to be able to do it. And that, you know, I'd rather teach a man to fish and he can, you know, live for whatever, you know, that thing. That's kind of my mentality is, you know, you guys should be able to get your own colors if you've got the tools to do it and the knowledge. So, yeah, the burgundy was a tough one. I was on the fence on that one. I like the watermelon better. I just went with that. So anyway, guys, so I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. Hopefully, you know, if you're in the States, you're getting some time off, maybe with family, doing some barbecuing this weekend. And again, you know, big thank you to everybody who's given the big sacrifice to ensure our freedom in this country. And really anywhere. I mean, you know, there's lots of countries and lots of militaries and lots of people where that's what the point was, right? So to all those who have given their lives for freedom and whatever else, whatever other reason that these mass populations can now live a little bit freer or happier. Thank you to everybody who has done that for us. So let's see here. Yeah, have a great weekend. We're not doing a lot this weekend, but we got a graduation party, actually, college graduation party for a friend's daughter tomorrow. So that should be kind of fun. We'll do a little bit of kind of barbecuing or something like that, I think. So should be fun, but I'm excited to see how these turn out. Like I said, I'm trying to keep my expectations a little in check. I don't know exactly what we'll get, but I think I don't know. If the top was any indication, I think that even if they weren't perfect, I think they might make some pretty cool looking pens. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining the fun today. Like I said, have a great rest of the day, great rest of the weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next stream.